Hello, and welcome to your video lecture on motivation. I hope you're enjoying this beautiful, sunny, warm weather that we're having today. It's really hard to look at organizational behavior or organizational psychology without discussing motivation. Motivation has been a topic of many research papers and many research projects. As a matter of fact, there are thousands of theories on motivation. I could use a whole class, a whole actual course on motivation. There's so much to be discussed. However, in this lecture, I'll probably only discuss some of the most common and most believed models of motivation. And we'll talk about motivation as it relates to those models. One of the reasons that motivation has been so popular and so much has been written about motivation is, as we know, the largest part of any business expense usually is labor. And so because labor is one of the largest expenses, what we want to do is get as much productivity out of our employees as we possibly can. Therein lies the reason that motivation has been studied so much. So when the video lecture is done, you'll have some discussion questions. Please give me about a page, not per discussion question, but just a page total on these discussion questions and as you answer them, and turn them in to me on Wednesday when we get back together. Until then, again, enjoy the beautiful weather, and hopefully you'll enjoy or at least learn something in this video lecture on motivation. So as I said in the introduction, today we're going to talk about a few theories of motivation. We're not going to hit all of them because that would be just way too much. So we're really going to only hit a couple of the main theories of motivation, the ones that are most popular in organizational behavior. So we're going to talk about foundations of employee motivation. Again, motivating employees is absolutely critical because one of the things that we know is that the greatest expense for most companies is labor. And think about it your own self. Think about if your greatest expense each month was your car, you'd want that to be running at tip-top occasion or tip-top performance. That's it. And let's say your biggest expense is your cell phone. Well, if that's the case, you're going to want your cell phone to work all the time and work as best as possible. So that's why we're going to talk a lot about foundations of employee motivation. So employee motivation really is the forces within a person that affect the direction, the intensity of their voluntary behavior. With motivation, they could either want to do it or they not want to do it. They can work hard, they can work less, or what have you. So basically what we're really talking about is we're talking about trying to influence employees' voluntary behavior in order to work harder, in order to get things done more swiftly, in order to put in the extra time, and all those types of things. So the first one we're going to talk about is Maslow. Maslow has been discussed, and really Maslow is the father of most motivational theories. Most motivational theories have been derived from Maslow. Abraham Maslow had the hierarchy of needs theory, and that really has set off a lot of other theories, and a lot of other theories have been developed from Maslow's. So with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, there is really 7 categories, including the need to know and need for beauty, but really there are 5 hierarchical needs. And the first one is physiological, not psychological, but physiological, which means your physical being. And with the physiological needs, you have the need, really 3 physiological needs. One is the need for food. One is the need for water, and one is the need for shelter and warmth. Those are your 3 main physiological needs. Maslow says that human beings, as well as most animals, almost any animal, will do just about anything to satisfy those needs: food, water, and warmth, because if you don't satisfy those needs, obviously you're not going to be around for very much longer. So Maslow says that's the first hierarchy of needs, and we will do just about anything to satisfy that. Then the next hierarchy of needs is safety. We have the need to be safe. That's also true in the workplace. We have a need to be safe in the workplace. If we are safe in the workplace, if we're well liked in the workplace, etc., then that goes to motivation and it helps us work harder. So the first one is physiological. The second one is safety. Once those needs are met, then you go into belongingness. You want a sense of belonging. You want people to like you. You need to be loved. You want other people to love you, other people to like you. You want to have friends. You want to have confidence. You want to have people that you can rely on, people that you can talk to, people that you can be happy around, and that's your sense of belonging. Once you have a sense of belonging, then you move to the next hierarchy of needs, and that would be self-esteem. You want to feel good about yourself, and you want to be happy within yourself. You want to be happy with yourself, etc. So the next hierarchy is esteem, and once you reach that, then eventually you'll reach self-actualization. That's really hard to say. Self-actualization, which means you've hit your pinnacle, you've hit all of your needs, and you have become one with yourself. So again, the 5 hierarchy of needs is physiology, safety, belongingness, esteem, and self-actualization. In all of those, we can translate those to the workplace too. Obviously, you're working for money. That money will buy food, clothing, water, and shelter. You also have a need to be safe. If you don't feel safe at work, then you're not going to be motivated. You're not going to stick around very long. You also have a need for having coworkers like you, and you become part of a team. You also have to be happy with yourself and happy with the job you're doing, and determine that you are doing a good job. And then finally you get to self-actualization. Maslow really never talks about whether we reach self-actualization or not. So there's really 2 types of motivation. There's intrinsic motivation and extrinsic motivation. Intrinsic motivation is motivation within you. You do something because it makes you feel good. You don't get any types of reward for it. It's just because you feel good about doing it. Helping an old lady across the street, doing something for a neighbor, mowing a neighbor's grass or sweeping their sidewalk or doing something like that. It makes you feel good. You don't expect a reward for it. You get an inner reward for it. So that is intrinsic motivation. Extrinsic motivation is when you get a reward for something. That would be a bonus, it would be a pay, it would be a basket of cookies, it would be something like that. You receive something beyond just feeling good. Most managers would say that if we can get employees to be motivated intrinsically versus extrinsically, then we've really hit our pinnacle, which means employees want to do good. They want to do as much as they can. They want to work hard. They want to be part of the team. They want to come to work because of its own value. It's their own inner needs that are fulfilled, and they are driven internally. If someone is only driven extrinsically, eventually you're going to run into problems because you can only give them so much, or you're going to throw salaries off or something like that. So extrinsic motivation, really, we're striving for intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation. The next theory I want to talk about is the learned needs theory, and it says needs can be strengthened or weakened based on what you learn. There's really 3 learned needs. One is the need for achievement. You want to be the best of the best. You want to have the most money. You want to be the best basketball player, the fastest person in the world, etc. Then there's the need for affiliation, which means you're seeking approval from others. So what you're doing is you're motivated because you want other people to like you. You want other people to think that you're good. You want other people to think that you're important or what have you. And then finally, the need for power. You want to be the boss. You want to rule things. You want to run things. You want to be the person that's in charge. Oftentimes, if you think about pro basketball players, etc., LeBron James comes to mind. And I've asked classes before, how do you motivate LeBron James? He's got more money than he ever knows what to do with. He's one of the best basketball players ever. What motivates him? And I think that the learned needs theory is what really applies to, say, someone like LeBron James. He has a constant need for achievement, a constant need to be the best and be on top of the world and be the best basketball player. So if he's intrinsically motivated to be the best, if he's intrinsically motivated to stay the best basketball player, then that is what would motivate him. Certainly, I wouldn't think that he would be motivated extrinsically. He's already got just about everything he needs. He also might be motivated for the need for power. He wants to be the best, and he wants people to think that he's the best, etc. So those are all the three learned needs theory of motivation. Employees have either a need for achievement, a need for affiliation, or a need for a power. Some of us have the need for all three, but in the third, the learned needs theory, generally speaking, what they're saying is they're saying that one of these learned needs is stronger than the others. So the next theory of motivation we're going to talk about is the expectancy theory of motivation. What expectancy theory motivation basically states is that the effort that you put into is going to lead to performance. And then that performance is going to lead to a desirable outcome. So you've got expectancy, you've got performance, and then you've got an outcome. So basically what it says is that if you work hard, if you put in a lot of effort, then you will achieve the performance in which you are evaluated. If you achieve that performance, then the outcome is positive, and that's why you're motivated. So basically your outcome could be extrinsic. You could get extra pay, you could keep your job, things like that. Your outcome also could be intrinsic. You become the best, you feel good about things, etc. The key thing to the expectancy theory of motivation, though, comes from effort. You've got to think that the effort that you put in is going to lead to performance. If you don't think the effort that you put in is going to lead to the performance, then you're not motivated, you would never do it. For instance, let's say that I told you that I will give you $100,000 if you can run 100 meters in less than 11 seconds. So you think, wow, $100,000. So you go out and you start getting in shape and you start putting in a lot of effort to that, etc. And then eventually you Google it and you find that sub 11 seconds is world record time or world performance time, and that you will never, ever, ever possibly do that. So you would give up because your effort will not lead to the performance or the desirable outcome. You will never run 100 meters in less than 11 seconds. So in that particular case, you're not motivated. However, if I said something like, if you can run a mile without stopping, then I will give you $10,000, say. Then you would get in shape and you would start working out because you truly believe that, you know what, it's possible for me to run a mile. I can do that. I can run a mile without stopping. I just got to get into a little bit better shape, etc. So then you run your mile. The effort led to your performance led to outcome. You found something that was important to you, and that outcome, the $10,000, was valuable to you. Now, the other thing about the equity theory is coming up. The other thing about the expectancy theory is the outcome has to be desirable. You have to want it. If I said, if you go and you run a mile without stopping, I will give you something that you don't like. Say you don't like peanuts. I'll give you a jar of peanuts and you don't like peanuts. Well, then you wouldn't be, even though you know that the effort would lead to performance, because you don't like the outcome, you would not be motivated to do that. So all three of them have to be present. You have to think that the effort is going to lead to the performance, and then that performance is going to lead to a desired outcome. So now we've got the reinforcement theory. Some people call it the 4OB mod consequences theory. I've always heard it as the reinforcement theory. The first one is you have positive reinforcement, which is motivating. So if you continue to say you're doing a good job, you recognize people with reinforcement, positive reinforcement, behavior increases. The second one is punishment. When punishment is introduced, the behavior decreases. The punishment could be, you know whatever punishment is. Extinction, taking something away. So when extinction happens, behavior decreases. For instance, if you're continually late for work, then extinction would be I would reduce your pay or I would dock your pay. So I'm taking something away. Knowing that the extinction would happen if you continue to be late for work, you would change the behavior and your behavior would decrease. And then finally, negative reinforcement, scolding somebody, telling them that they're doing a bad job and that they need to increase or something like that. When that happens, when negative reinforcement happens, then behavior increases. So you do a better job. So that is your 4OB mod consequences theory, also known as your reinforcement theory. And then finally, the last one we're going to talk about is the equity theory of motivation. The equity theory says that you're motivated if your outcome and your performance provides, and given your input, let me say that again. The equity theory states that if you are rewarded greater than or equal to your referent other or your peer, somebody who you compare yourself with, you'll be motivated. If in fact you are not, if you're getting less than your referent other, you would be not motivated. Let me give you an example. Suppose you're working with your friend. You've got the same job, you're doing the same thing. You find out that your friend is making $10,000 per year more than you. You become less motivated because you feel like you're not being treated equitable, the same. However, just the opposite. If you're working with your friend and you're doing the same thing that your friend is doing and you're getting paid more than your friend, say you're making $10,000 more, then you are motivated because you feel like you're getting better than somebody else and you're doing better than your referent other. So that means that your own outcomes given your own inputs is greater than or equal to somebody else's outcomes given their inputs. Now, one of the things that's key with this theory is your referent other. Your referent other has to be somebody who is on your same level. You can't compare yourself to a CEO and say, well, I'm doing just as much work as a CEO and they're getting paid $1 million and I'm getting paid $50,000. Because there's other things that go into that. There's education and climbing the corporate ladder and that type of thing. But if your referent other is somebody who's doing a similar job to you, or you compare yourself to similarly, if your outcome given your input is greater than or equal to somebody else's outcome given their input, then you're motivated. If it's not, then you're not motivated. So that concludes our video lecture today on motivation. When we get together, we will have a quiz, so please study leadership and motivation. Here's your discussion questions. Please give me one written page. Please type it because it's hard to read your writing sometimes. So just give me one page of typed on these three questions. Again, not 1 page per question, just 1 page total. And with that, I will see you when we get together on Wednesday.